Okay, you say if you would receive an invitation from a VTuber company, would you accept it or reject it, and why? If I were to receive a contract, I would really think it over. Like, I would actually read the contract and just know how much of freedom I had on, under that contract. Like, it'd be nice if if this could be like, my income, and that'd be a way to get there. It depends how much freedom I'd have in that contract. I really need to read it over. I don't want to get scammed. Well, it reminds you of that Iron Mouse situation. I guess she like raised money to donate, but they like kept the money and they weren't like paying her properly. I don't know. I don't recall what company she was signed with though. But I'm pretty happy just being an independent VTuber. I don't have to worry about like being restricted on what I could say. Let me read what you sent first. Um, or the recent drama about two VTubers who were in the same organization started dating and the company decided to remove them entirely. God, yeah. Yeah, I really hate when companies like restrict like whatever dating a person can do. I did not hear about that. I do know it's pretty common in like idol type careers to kind of keep this fantasy of like with viewers that oh maybe you have a chance with her. Let me look up about it. But yeah, that really sucks. What the hell? Honestly, well, I guess fuck. It kind of sucks like if you want to date someone, you have to think I need to go over this with our managers. Like what? I don't want to be controlled like that. To get a little personal, I've had enough of being, controlled by others in my life. What I can and can't do. I'm much more free now in my life. See, 3 days ago.
So recently, there's been a little bit of a situation going on with a Japanese VTuber agency named Limitless, and they've been in the news recently for something very interesting that doesn't really happen too often. And it's involving the termination of two of their VTubers, right? And again, you might be wondering, well, what's going on with this? They've only got 5K followers, then they're not that big. What can really be interesting about this? Well, essentially, it's come out that two of their VTubers Kanade Ruka and Baku Baku, got terminated from their VTuber agency due to violating their no relationships allowed company rule. Kanade Ruka has added their own statement. So here we go.
Okay, so they had that rule already. They probably tried to do it in secret and they got caught. It's like, look, like you have to look at what you're signing. And if it sees right there you can't date within it, I would just well, I guess that's kind of the risk you take if you want to break the contract, you could say. Okay, okay, let's say if I got signed on to what are they called? Some VTuber company and it said I can't date anyone in the thing. It's kind of like okay, like if I was single, be kind of like well, what if I do want to? Like I don't want to be controlled like that, so I wouldn't even have signed.
This is from them saying, over the years, I've been deeply grateful
Yeah, like I don't care how much help they are to my career.
for all your support and kindness. I extend my heartfelt gratitude for the opportunity to meet and connect with you all. I also recognize that there has been shortcomings in my efforts or instances that caused you concern through my activities. I sincerely apologize for any such moments. With this, I've decided to conclude these activities now. Thank you truly for everything up until now. So they don't really kind of respond to the relationship thing there. And obviously, they say here just one thing. Please allow me to clarify to avoid any misunderstanding. Regarding this matter, it is entirely my own shortcomings and the responsibility.
My take is just like, well, you knew what the contract was. You really had to pick between being in this agency or, dating. Hopefully they could find another agency that won't care that they're dating each other.
Lie with me. There's no there's no fault on the part of Romarisu-sama. The On the contrary, you supported me with the utmost courtesy throughout, including handling the other party to the very end. I have nothing but gratitude towards the agency. That said, as per the agency rules, romantic relationships within the agency are prohibited, so I'd appreciate your understanding on that front as well. I kindly ask you for your favorable consideration. So, yeah, it seems like they were terminated for being in a relationship together within the company, right? Obviously, it seems like there was just a no relationships allowed in the company rule, not necessarily no relationships allowed at all. So you're allowed relationships, but you can't, have relationships between different talent, which, to be honest, I think is understandable, right? I think it's kind of understandable to some sense, right? I think that, obviously terminating them maybe a little bit crazy. Maybe they could have talked about it or whatever, and maybe come up with a solution instead of terminating. But to be honest, I can understand how that could make things a little bit harder in terms of the company running and
I mean, since you broke your contract, they're not gonna really trust you much to adhere to it. I hate contract stuff like this, but honestly, it's what you signed up for. Like, it's literally like you can get terminated or they could take you to court for breaking the contract.
internal kind of
Sadly.
politics, right? Because if you think, right, if they were to break up, let's say in a couple months time, then it's going to be slightly awkward, right, whenever they try to interact with each other or they go to the same events and things like that, because they're all
Yeah, there's usually why they have that. That's usually why they have that sort of rule. Like, it's not just to control you. Like, it is controlling, but they also don't want any drama in the workplace. I still feel it's too controlling, you know? Like, I get it, but it still shouldn't be a rule. It's kind of like, look, if you're gonna date and any drama happens, keep it off your channels, you know?
always going to be crossing paths, and it's going to be extremely awkward and bring the mood down quite a bit, with a lot of the other VTubers and all this kind of stuff. So again, I can understand why there is a similar rule for that, but I also, do think maybe termination was a bit too far. People saying within the company said, yes, sorry if that wasn't clear. I said, there's no reason she should be apologizing for something like this. In fact, it's far more controlling and frankly indefensible for a company to dictate what one can do in their private life, which, yeah, I can also understand that front as well, right?
And as I say, that was in your contract. You signed it. And that's why with your question, likable paper, if I was ever offered to sign with an agency, I would read the contract and be sure I have a good amount of freedom.
Is that you work for the company, you're not owned by the company, you are not their slave. What you do in your off hours is your business and not theirs. If we assume that what was happening was not illegal, it created a conflict in the workspace, i.e., dating your management and causing conflicts of interest because of it. Then there should never be an issue. And obviously they say, yeah, if this was a relationship within the company, then okay, maybe not an issue, but no racial relationships allowed in general. That's the thing I take issue with. And yeah, if it was no relationships in general, I think there's an issue with that, right? I think that people should be allowed to do whatever they want. And if,
Wait, hold on.
yeah, if this was a relationship within the
This is a bit of the company. Okay, maybe not an issue, but no relations in general. No, yeah, see, that's something they do in like idol stuff. Like they don't do it as much anymore, or maybe they do. I'm not too into like the J-pop idol stuff, but it is known that there's been past stuff where like, they're not allowed to date at all, and and they end up getting caught like dating someone, and their company basically fires them, and their fans demonize them because they're like, I thought you loved us. But yeah, I don't know, I don't like that kind of parasocial, Jesus Christ. Yeah, I definitely don't like companies that want to push this parasocial relationship with fans. Shit gets creepy really fast.
because we all know, I don't know if you guys have ever worked at a place where sometimes, there'll be two people that are dating and
Nah,
then they fall out or whatever. And then
it's
it
too
just gets very
controlling.
awkward, right? It's not a very good work environment for everybody else
I just say
that
they
has to
just
deal
keep it
with
out of
everything that is going on, right? So,
their streaming
dining
work.
it out, right, will obviously stop this from
If
happening, at
they
least
end up breaking
mostly.
up.
Of course, sometimes it still will happen, for example, in this case, but, it kind of will, kind of push people to look elsewhere to find love, right? Sure, if maybe what you wanted to do is, I guess, get terminated or whatever after doing that, and you're fully on board with being terminated after doing that, then maybe that's fine. But again, I think it's one of those cases where it is kind of protecting the company kind of internal politics, right? They're saying no romantic relationships within the company is a pretty common thing, and it's gone back and forth throughout the years. If it's acceptable or not, if it's acceptable or not. On the one hand, many romantic relationships happened with coworkers, and sometimes it's the best relationship ever. but the others can lead to favoritism within the company, which is also true. You know, it's not even necessarily about fallout, but
I mean,
favoritism.
sometimes that's how
And
you
also,
meet
if they had a
people at
fight,
your
it could disrupt the
workplace.
company space. But if a company has a policy to have no romantic relationships within the company and they catch you, this is pretty much the result. As a VTuber agency has rules, VTuber breaks the rules and gets fired. Wow. You know, retarded VTuber fans. Wow. This company is so controlling. I hope they go bankrupt and die. Bad corpo. Bad corpo. Cringe. Cringe. Base. Which obviously, yeah, it's interesting that it's only within the company that is banned, which is a lot more reasonable than a complete ban, and has absolutely nothing to do with maintaining the illusion for the audience or whatever. Which, yeah, I do think is true,
Yeah,
right? I think it is one of these things.
that's what I mean by parasocial, like maintaining an illusion. Basically, yeah, like you have a chance with them or whatever. But yeah, it's not a full on ban on dating, you know. Just kind of like, well, that sucks. Hopefully, you get a better agency.
Where I know a lot of people will probably get mad over this, right? A lot of people will be pretty outraged, but I think at the same time it is also the case of, yeah, as I said, protecting the company and how they do things, right? So again, I don't really have a problem with it personally. And there's also another post from Anime Trends here as well, saying a VTuber agency has just ruined the careers of two of their talents for committing the worst crime in the idol industry, falling in love in the office. The Japanese agency
Like idols are usually singers. I mean, maybe they sing, but this is like a different type. This is like a new type of idol. And yeah, I'm not surprised this is in their industry with VTubing. Truly, the worst crime an idol can do: falling in love with someone who's not a fan. I mean, did Limitless say that they put fan trust? Wait, putting fan trust at risk? Like, is this like that idol thing, or is it just within the company?
you know, um, yeah, out of proportion here. I feel like the actual reason is due to like in company policies, right? Like in company dating, which again,
Like maybe some agencies are like that, you know, governed by the same idol love ban rule. Do not sign with companies that do that, please. Find a company that will let you have your own personal life and not try and create a parasocial relationship with your fans,
I think it's a
please.
little bit weird. At its core, VTuber is essentially idol. And again, I don't know if anybody's corrected them on that in the sense that I feel like, from what I've got from this, it's a no relationship rule within the company.
Honestly, I think being a VTuber is a little more personal than being an idol, to be honest. So, you know, I'm not surprised if it still goes that route. Don't sign with those companies. I just think it's bad when certain VTubers or idols like pretend that they're single, you know, just to have those type of parasocial fans. You know, that's pretty dishonest. Like, be open about your relationships, and they'll give people this idea that they could get close to you. Especially like if they like, oh, subscribe to my tiers and blah blah. Yeah, not a fan of that. Get me out of full screen.